Let's ask a question. What are the best FPS levels ever made? I think people would point to Titanfall 2's Effect and Cause, Half-Life 2's Ravenholm, or Jeff from Half-Life Alyx. The iconic E1M1 from Doom, maybe something from a Halo game like ODST's Mombasa Streets, or Cortana from Halo 3. For me though, my number one answer comes from an unlikely place: Dusk. In rural Pennsylvania lies a military-operated research city tapping into the eldritch power in the dark heart of the Northeast. The Dusk dude is caught by locals and is sentenced to death, but he rips himself off his meat hooks and gets to killing the cultists on his journey to crack the mystery of the city of Dusk and get the treasure for himself. Now, just looking at the game, you'd think it came out in 1996. But it's not powered by an old id Tech engine or build or anything like that. It's made in Unity, which just means that they used new tools and researched a retro aesthetic to ensure it was as stylistically close as they could get because game engines are tools. But I digress. Is the game cumbersome? A bit. Is it a little disorienting? For sure. But is it fun? Is it ever? Essentially picking up right where the likes of Quake left us, Dusk is about as authentic as you could desire for the time period it's trying to represent, presented in a truly superb fashion. The whole game is a blast, pretty much every map is pretty good, but no level has stuck out to me quite like Escher Labs. Episode 2, Mission 5 in Dusk might just be the best marriage of classic and modern, and it was the moment that I realized Dusk wasn't just content with playing things straight. The level begins like many of the others in Episode 2, the facilities, with some rooms, some computers, some scientists and soldiers, but a room in the middle presents you with a brand new power-up, a syringe that gets super hot. Super hot. Super hot. After taking the most innovative drug in years, the player must backtrack through the labs, and this is where the map's key defining feature kicks in, and it reveals that this isn't just another retro throwback shooter. Now, am I saying that Escher Labs requires the use of Unity to do correctly? Of course not. I do legitimately think you could do this in the Quake branch of id Tech given enough planning. But Dusk's design from this point forward feels like it essentially requires the hindsight of the past couple decades, being able to look back at the mid-90s in games and explore just what boundaries were left to break, and explore them to their fullest. And Escher Labs introduces players to that mentality by tearing many of the walls and ceilings open to reveal warped facsimiles of the ground resting above them. These only trigger once you take the power-up, and a text pop-up completes the scene by making it appear that the player's actions and taking the serum of blistering heat have altered the Dusk dude's state of mind, and from here onwards, the level continues to deteriorate. A stair set cast into the side of a wall can be platformed up to reach the floor, or wall in your case, and climb up more stairs. Enemies can be far above you, shooting down, and the player momentarily takes a trip into what I can only describe as the screaming internals of a wretched beast for a key. This is punctuated by a boss fight with Mama, who later becomes a regular enemy, the cowgirl, all set out in a black void atop some floating platforms. After this segment, the level seemingly returns to normal, and the player continues their pillaging of Dusk, Pennsylvania, to some semblance of normal. I mean, you destroy a city-sized reactor, you wind up in Neobabble, you wind up inside an alternate reality altogether even, but getting there means crossing the threshold from tense but mundane to the geniusly demented. Escher Labs' Mind Screw is impressive, and it's done entirely with ProBuilder primitives and prefab models that get out of the way to reveal the chaos hiding behind them, which required a lot of planning on the level designer's part. The most important thing about the level is what it means for the back half of Dusk, though. After familiarizing you with the aesthetic Dusk is opting to appeal to in the first episode and first 4 maps of the second, it pulls the rug out from underneath you. The game is going to play with your expectations the whole way and challenge you to consider what nooks and crannies we missed in the 90s. Whether it's a blood tornado revealing glowing staircases, a bee-hopping Quake Pro for a penultimate boss, or even just referencing Super Hot with a power-up, Dusk is a retro FPS with the design ideology of modern indies. Not just a replication of the games of old, but an admiration of them, demonstrating a willingness to bend the rules and explore what modern thought and design expertise can offer the retro subgenre, to make something uniquely new, but uniquely familiar all the same. This philosophy bleeds into New Blood Interactive's other titles. Amid Evil is a throwback FPS inspired by Hexen, but utilizes cutting-edge rendering tech. You can play the entire game with RTX on. Gloomwood and Fallen Aces are immersive simulators taking inspiration from the FPSs of old. Ultra Kill has become one of Steam's highest rated titles ever, just due to its flexible free running and satisfying arsenal and combo system. New Blood's games are equal parts celebrating the old, but also finding ways to make it new again, and no one moment in the company's career sells this feeling better than the moment Dusk played its whole hand in one go and revealed that it knows more than it lets on, by having you walk back into the lobby in Escher Labs and see the floor on the ceiling. And that shock is why I feel it deserves a spot in the upper echelons of FPS design. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more, I'd recommend subscribing. Coffee and social media links are in the description.